And hello, movie lovers, and welcome to the show. For tonight's podcast episode, I actually have Beth with me from Made for TV Movie Podcast. And I need to go on ahead and unmute your mic real quick. Hold on. We're having some difficulties. Hold on. Let's see. But yeah, I have Beth with me again, and give me one sec. Try unmuting your mic real quick. There you go.
Hi.
Hey, there we go.
Here we are. Technical difficulties aside, we're still doing it.
Exactly. So, like I was saying, I have Beth with me once again from Made for TV Podcast and everything. Say hello to everybody.
Sorry.
And tonight we're actually reviewing Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And this is a movie that came out in the 80s, of course. And matter of fact, this movie came out in 1986. It had a budget of $5 million, and the box office it drew $70.7 million at the world box office. And like I said, this is one of my favorite movies. This is actually one of those movies that I can sit back and watch over and over again. It's like 16 Candles. Not only that, but the thing that I find really funny though is this. I remember going to a video school, and my mom's like, "Don't get any ideas on how to skip school." That was the first thing she said when I rented it, because that's exactly why I rented the movie in the first place. Was
right? You're like, right. I'm going to get some ideas.
And basically, I had one thing that Ferris didn't think of, which was fake a diarrhea, because it's actually harder to prove. Because all you have to do is just go to the doctor, and it presses on your stomach. All you do is, ooh, ah, ow, that hurts. Next thing you know, you're sitting back at home, eating some Jell-O and everything, and just relaxing and watching The Price is Right.
Except for today. Today they might send you to the right. specialist, and then you're getting colonoscopy and all kinds of
right.
stuff.
Exactly. So that might not even go that well, like it was back in the 90s. But this is one of those movies. Like I said before, it stars Matthew Broderick. And basically the plot is this: he lives in the suburbs of Chicago near the end of the school year. He's a high school senior. Ferris Bueller fakes an illness to stay at home. Throughout the film, Ferris breaks the fourth wall to talk about his friends, give the audience advice on various subjects. His parents believe he is ill, though his sister Janie does not. I also like how he breaks the fourth wall by explaining how he actually fakes sick. I also liked how he said, I asked for a car for my 16th birthday. They gave me a computer.
Which is so funny, because he brings that up a lot, and then Jeannie, the sister, is like, he asked for a car and he got a computer, ha ha ha, which I love. But in the very opening scene, when he's pretending he's sick, and he's like, is that you, Papa? It's so cute. It's so funny. It's so funny. But that whole breaking the fourth wall, it's such an unusual technique to use. And I wonder why he chose that, because he doesn't do it I guess Geek does it in 16 Candles once, right?
Right. He winds up breaking the fourth wall once.
Yeah. So he does. So I guess he didn't do it there, but it's very unusual way to film a movie. So it's kind of weird that he wrote it that way, but it's great. It works really well for this movie. I think it's really well casted too.
It definitely is well casted, to be honest with you.
Hugh said that he chose, he was thinking about Matthew Broderick as he wrote the movie, but Anthony Michael Hall has actually said that he thought it was written for him. So I think that's interesting, because I could see them both playing it, but I'm glad he chose Matthew Broderick, because Matthew Broderick was in one of my very favorite 80s movies called War Games. Have you seen that one, John?
Yeah, I've seen War Games.
I can't tell you how much I love that movie. It's so good. And that one was also really well casted. Matthew Broderick is a great actor, but Ferris Bueller, I think, really put him over the edge of as an actor. That was really one of the big breakout roles.
I think so too, though, Beth, because I think that's what actually brought him on the map and everything. Don't get me wrong, War Games is fun and everything, but being a high school senior, being able to get out on your, to go goof off with your friends and everything, that is something relatable, something that you can connect with. And even in a 2021 world and kind of setting and stuff like that, you can connect with it because you're tired of the day-to-day, everyday activity and stuff like that. And that's exactly what Ferris was tired of. He was tired of the everyday stuff and things like that.
Yes.
And even though he's very manipulative towards Cameron, his friend, which is what Randy was saying, the funny thing is his friend is really sick and he isn't, and stuff like that. I feel like Ferris, and some people would say, well, he manipulated Cameron, but at the same time, I feel like Ferris is one of those people that was trying to help his friend stand up for himself and was trying to push him.
It's funny you say that, because I was thinking when I watched it again, and I hadn't seen it all the way through. I mean, I've seen bits and pieces, but I hadn't seen it all the way through probably in at least 5 years. So as like from the mom perspective, I was thinking, I guess one could argue maybe that he was manipulating Cameron, but I think he really understood Cameron and what Cameron, maybe it wasn't his place to push him that hard, but I think he did help him, and I think he did help Cameron to have a good time, to like face his father, although we don't really know how that went. I feel like it probably wasn't. There's probably a reason that wasn't in the movie, because no dad would have handled that very well. But I think that they had a nice relationship, and I mean, I suppose we could argue, bullying or whatever, but I just don't think it's that out of the realm of the way friendships are when you're that age.
Exactly, because we all bust each other's balls and stuff like that when we're younger and stuff like that, and it's always a back and forth thing when it comes down to friendships and everything. I know friends that we cuss at each other and stuff like that all the time. We just bust each other's balls. That's just the way that guys are with each other.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So
Well, no, I don't really know what you mean, but I know how girls are. I do know that I've never stolen one of my friend's dad's cars, but he was borrowing it. So, but it's all in good fun. It wasn't a real car anyway.
Right. But the thing that I really have to say though is the very beginning, like you mentioned, with the father checking on his son, and then the mother goes, "Ooh, your hands feel really clammy and everything." And he goes, "Papa, that you? That you, Papa?"
It's so funny. And when I was looking at his face, I'm like, he looks so cute right there.
And he has that innocence of where, he's playing off that innocence and everything, which works in his favor.
Yeah.
And everything. And then after they wind up leaving, he goes, "Okay, time to get busy."
Well, I think he does this sort of classic. It's a very classic, like, lie to your parents to get what you want when you're in high school kind of moment, because they're so dumb. I mean, they're just like, okay, he's sick, really. Even though it's like his 9th sick day, they're still not like, did he lick his hands? They're just so naive to him, I think. But I don't think they're different than any other parents. You know what I mean? Especially, and you don't know this, but because you weren't growing up in the 80s, but parents were a little less involved in their kids' lives in general, in my experience, than they have been since. So that doesn't surprise me from that point of view. It's just that, like, if my kid was sick 10 times in a semester, I'd be a little like, should we see a doctor at this point? Or, you know what I mean? But I think it was funny, though. I think their stupidity is what helps move that movie along.
It definitely is. It just shows how naive they are to Ferris and not realizing that he's playing them the whole time, while Janie is actually the good student, the good sister and everything, who goes to school, puts in her time, and does what she needs to do as far as the student goes. And they treat
her like she's a troublemaker. They're like, stop tattling on your brother.
He's sick right now. Do not bother him.
Right? Don't bother him.
Yeah. But here's the thing though too. I mean, another thing that I have to say is this. you actually have one of the actors from Beetlejuice in this movie playing the father. No, not the father, the principal in this movie too, which is Ed Rooney, who suspects Ferris is the repeat torrent and commits to catching him. Ferris convinces his best friend Cameron, who is legitimately absent due to an illness. He's hypochondriac, which Ferris sees through to help lure Ferris's girlfriend, Salome Peterson, to go skipping school. And I thought that was actually pretty funny, though, that they actually use Cameron, and Cameron's acting like her father. And he's like, yes, this is her father, Simone's father, and I want her to come out in the front of the building by herself.
Yeah, I wish we could I wish I could copy his voice in that one because it's so funny when he does the voices when he's calling. It's funny. It's so fun. And then she comes out and she sees, you don't know how Sloane's going to react when she finds out her was it grandpa or grandma? Grandma dies?
Yeah, her grandma died.
Yeah, and then she comes out and you're like, oh no, is she like really crying? And then she sees it's him and she's like, oh, okay, we're all good.
And another thing that this is actually funny, but Mooney also talks to Ferris's mother, though, too, on the phone. He goes, he's been absent 10 times. And she goes, 10 times? I don't remember him being sick 10 times. He goes, it says it right here, 10 times. And and then as he's saying that, the absence is actually going down. And everything to like 3.
I mean, it's really his parents' fault. They bought him the computer.
Right. And this is like hacking before online hacking actually happened. So God knows what he had to do to get the same type of IP address or whatever to hack into the school system to do that.
Part of me wonders if that was a little homage to War Games as well, because his character does that in War Games.
Yeah.
And obviously, you couldn't just break into the school's computer, but that is one of my favorite moments when you're just watching the number go down, and he's just like, "Ooh!" Like I can see as an adult why he would be mad, but at the same time, I'm like, dude, you like broke into his house
just to catch him in the act. I mean, did a B&D, and you're taking your principles into a whole new extreme level.
Yeah, and here's a question I have. Wouldn't Jeannie, the sister, recognize her own principal?
That's another thing I didn't get. Unless she doesn't spend a lot of time in the principal's office, considering the fact that she's always doing everything that she can do as a best student.
Yeah, I think that's possible. And I almost wonder if maybe I was kind of thinking when I rewatched it, like maybe she just panicked because somebody's in her home.
Yeah.
So maybe that's why she didn't recognize him, because she clearly did when she had his wallet later. But when I watched them, like she sees his full face. So I'm like, oh, you didn't recognize that was him? But it doesn't matter because she still kicked him right in the face. That was funny.
That was. And you know what, though? I have to say this. I think that actually makes a lot more sense. When somebody's breaking into her home, we don't look at their face or anything like that. We don't know. It's based off of just survival instincts with her.
As an adult, that moment actually really scared me watching that, when she's like in the house, like trying to bust Ferris. And then she realizes there's somebody in the house. Like in real life, that'd be really terrifying.
That would be really terrifying if you think about it. It has like a little bit of a suspense now that we're actually adults.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, this is definitely not going to play out well in a 2021 kind of vibe.
Although she was kind of a badass both that time and then when she goes up and kicks the door in and sees like the mannequin head comes up, and I'm like, oh, you're a badass girl. I always really liked her character because I was like, yeah, that's awesome. Even though she ends up in jail or whatever, or not in jail, but at the police station.
Right, with Charlie Sheen and everything too. Whenever he gives out that.
That's such a brilliant scene, and it's more brilliant today because of everything that's happened with Charlie Sheen. But even back then, he was pretty much the
bad boy.
Yeah, he was a bad boy, and he had a reputation. So it was
Right.
still funny then, but I actually think it's a little more ironic now.
Right. It's like foreshadowing his own future.
You can really appreciate him in that role today, even though it was not a huge role, but it was funny. I like that. I actually like that scene. I thought it was really clever.
Same here. I thought that was really clever of them to actually do that too and stuff like that. And also too, Jennifer Grey is in the movie too, like Brandy said. And then of course, Simone's grandmother dies, and then Cameron is actually this is how ruthless Rooney is at trying to stop Ferris no matter what. While Cameron's actually entertaining Rooney by saying that the grandmother died. Then you have Ferris that calls him up on the phone, and he goes, "Hey, Mr. Rooney, look, I'm not feeling good today or anything. I was just wondering, can you go on ahead and give me my books and everything and my homework that I need so that way I can study and keep up with my classes? Thank you. Bye." And then all of a sudden he's like, because here's the thing, Rooney is thinking that that's actually Ferris, and therefore he's like, you know what? I want to see a corpse. I want to see this old bag. I want to see this just wheel her up. That's just school policy.
Yeah.
Wheel this old hag up to the school, and I now believe that she's actually dead.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, Cameron's like, "Excuse me?" And then the assistant's like, "Rooney, what? Ferris Bueller's on the other line."
And he's like, "Hello?" And then again, I don't know. It was so funny because he's just like, "Oh shit, that's not him." But it really could have been, because he still could have put himself on hold, and it still was him. But Cameron just does such. He's so his like voices are so funny, especially when he's like when he calls when they're at the restaurant when he's pretending he's the Sausage King of Chicago.
Right. That part was actually funny though too, to be honest with you. And then also too, the other funny thing, of course, is when Cameron's in his car and he's like, "I'm not gonna go. I'm not going. I'm not going." He's like, then all of a sudden he just cranks up the car. "I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go." And then he cranks it back off and goes, "If I don't go, he's gonna call me. And then he's gonna make me feel bad. He's gonna make me feel bad. Okay, I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go." So
and then you can see. I mean, he's like agonizing over it. He's really like doesn't know what to do, and then he's like, "Damn it!" I mean, he's so mad. But I think he reacts that way because he knows that Ferris is right. That he needs to take the day off and go and just. He doesn't know what's gonna. And I don't even know if Ferris knew. I don't know if he really had a plan for the day.
Well, to be honest with you, I think he knew what he planned out in his mind on what he wanted to do and everything as far as how he planned it out his day. I mean, he planned out a whole entire fundraiser for himself with the school.
Yeah.
And stuff like that, which I thought was funny that even the school is doing a fundraiser for him.
Well, and then later in the movie, somebody says to the mom, like, "Oh, tell Ferris, we're all rooting for him," and she's like, "Oh, okay." Like she has no idea this whole thing is building and building and building all day long.
Oh. Exactly. And then also too, you have the father who's working and stuff like that too. He doesn't have a clue at what's going on. No. Perfect example is when him and Simone are inside the car, in the taxi car. And next thing you know, they start making out when the father starts looking at them. I just thought it was funny.
I wonder, I was like, does he not know who she is? Because I would have been like, wow, that really looks like my son's girlfriend, who I feel like I know what that would. Can you hear my dog barking?
It's perfectly fine. It's not a problem.
I'm so sorry. I just feel really bad that he's like barking.
Don't feel bad. No. It's perfectly fine. It's fine. Sorry. But no. Not at all. Seriously. But it's okay. But I just think that with this kind of movie, you just have to have some type of disbelief and everything.
Oh yeah, you have to suspend every amount of disbelief you have. I mean, because otherwise the movie doesn't work at all. Like I was thinking, I wonder how expensive that day would have been. Because they paid to park, went to a game, went to the restaurant, went to the museum. You know what I mean? Like Ferris has no job. Of course, he's got a great car for the day. I guess that's all you need.
Right. But at the same time, that was the 80s. So I imagine the baseball tickets probably weren't that expensive in the 80s.
Yeah, I don't remember. I know, like, okay, so I'm Brewers fan, Brewers my whole life. So we're only a couple hours north of Chicago, and they weren't expensive. Like, you could get into a game for $10.
Yeah. Matter of fact, in the 80s, it was like $80. Probably. No, average ticket price was like $4.45.
Yeah.
To get in, which is cheap compared to now.
Well, they also didn't have the stadiums like they have today. I mean,
True.
I think most of the Brewer stuff was bench seating, if I can remember. So it may have been the same way at the other stadiums, but that's the first time I actually ever heard swing bada bada bada. I had never heard that before in my life. I don't know how, but I hadn't.
You see, I heard that from that, and then after that, it was Rookie of the Year back in the 90s and everything too, and it was swing batter batter batter, swing batter batter batter. But the way Cameron does it is just hysterical, though. It's swing batter batter, swing.
It takes a very long time to say it.
Right. He draws it out a little bit more than how I'm saying it, but it makes it that more hysterical, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
And then also, too, another funny thing, too, is like you said with the art museum, they're over there in the art museum just enjoying the day, watching that, doing the art museum. Then after the art museum is the baseball game, and Rooney's over in the bar watching the same baseball game that Ferris is at, and he has his head turned, and he doesn't even notice Ferris or anything. And then also, too, he sees that this other person has the same kind of jacket that this other person has on inside the arcade area. So he thinks that's actually Ferris. It's actually a girl who's dressed up in the same kind of gear.
That was so funny, that scene. Because the first time I saw it, I thought, I was like, because we know that's not Ferris. But then he's like going up to him. And so, but you don't know you're not in on the joke until she turns around.
Right, because we know he's at the baseball game, but I'm like, there's no way that he could actually get off the stands and go into the bar that quickly. And God knows where that bar is. Right, exactly. But, you know, I liked how they played that off and everything. And, of course, Rooney winds up getting punched in the face by the girl.
He really deserved it.
He does. He really did deserve that.
Kicked pretty hard, but he deserved it. He committed a lot of crimes that day, more than Ferris probably. You know, the other thing I was going to tell you earlier before the show started, I was saying there was something I remembered, and when I was looking up some stuff about the movie, I forgot that for the museum scene, I think it was a sound producer had gotten a song from The Cure that they were going to use for that scene. And then John Hughes had a falling out with whatever producer it was. So when he left, he took the song with him. So the song never made it, which I think is really interesting because at that point, The Cure really weren't that well known. Friday I'm in Love was still 4 or 5 years away. And right. They were still considered fairly alternative underground band. You weren't hearing them on the radio or anything like that. People knew who they were, but they weren't mainstream at all. And so I wonder what that would have done for The Cure, because, when you consider how in Pretty in Pink, the soundtrack made a lot of people really famous. And then when I was watching the scene again the other day, I was like, boy, this really could use some Cure. It would have been a lot more interesting, I think, because in the end, it's not that interesting of music. It's okay, but I think The Cure would have really set that tone so well.
It would have been different. It would have been a different atmosphere as far as the rock music goes of the 80s, to be honest with you. Yeah. But don't get me wrong, I like the twist and shout music they used in the parade.
Yeah, I did too. That was the first time I heard the Wayne Newton, the Donkashane. I'd never heard of Wayne Newton before that movie. So I had no idea who he was. I had no idea what Donkashane was, but I still love that song to this day.
Which means thank you for coming, I think. I think that's
it means thank you
thank you.
Yeah. But I also read that Paul McCartney gave permission to use Twist and Shout, but then didn't like the version in the end that they used.
Yeah, I'm not sure if that was like a cover that somebody else did for Twist and Shout, or
I don't know.
Because that was the one that I grew up on, was that version that I grew up on. I didn't grow up on the one that Paul McCartney did or anything.
Yeah, I don't even know who. I don't know. I guess I would have to re-listen to it, but they somehow remixed it or something. I'm not sure exactly what they did, but they did something different that he didn't like. I think he said there was too much bass, or it was. I'm not sure. I can't remember what it was, but I thought that was interesting, and I thought But I also think that it really brought up the Beatles a whole new group of people listening to them, because while they were certainly popular and everybody knew who they were by then, he was in Wings. You know what I mean? Like he was still making music, but younger generations may not have been as familiar with the Beatles.
No, they wouldn't have. And to be honest with you, unless you have a mother that actually grew up on the 1950s or 60s music like I did, you're not going to have that crowd that actually knows who the Beatles are, don't have a clue who Paul Ringo is, don't have a clue at who John Lennon is, or Paul McCartney, or anything either. So, it definitely helps to actually have some music that you may have not heard of and be like, hey, look, I want to go on ahead and check out this band because I heard this on Ferris Bueller's Day Off. And this could have actually helped out The Cure a lot more. Yeah,
I think so. I think it would have brought them, popularity, mainstream popularity sooner, because obviously they got it with Friday I'm in Love, and that came out, I think, in 92. And so it still was another 6 years off. And so in 86, they would have had, I can't remember the album, but it would have been Boys Don't Cry. I forget off the top of my head, but it would have been that album. So there was a great album out around that time. Their current one was probably their best, my favorite album. But like I said, it wasn't like it was on, the radio or anything. People just didn't listen to it in the same way that you would. Like today, you can hear Cure songs all the time, because now everybody knows who they are. Their canon sort of came in with Friday I'm in Love, and they make great music. They really do. They're a great band, and they have great music. So I'm glad that they're still around. But I kind of wish that was in the movie. Now that I know that, I can't unknow it.
Right, exactly. Because we wonder, okay, what would this sound like? With the parade, and would they actually switch out the songs like they did? To be honest with you,
I don't know. I think the way it worked out was great. I think it's brilliant, and I like the music, and I think that just watching Matthew Broderick lip syncing to Wayne Newton is just so classic. And I was watching that one where he's like at the end of the song, and he kind of like puts his hand up, and he's like doing it, and it's like, he's clearly having fun.
Yes.
And I think that's what everybody loved about it. And that's why everybody felt so good when that scene was on, because it just makes you feel good.
It does.
To watch everybody dancing, and the window washers are like jamming, and everybody's having a great time. And then there's
even the father's dancing.
Yeah. Even that. He got a little jiggy with it.
Right. And I thought to myself, your son is out there parading around, and you don't have a clue. That's actually him lip syncing to Darkashay by Wayne Newton.
I kind of wish now that I had counted the amount of times that his dad could have busted him and didn't.
That's twice so far that I counted. Yeah. The taxi cab, and then of course with the parade. But then again, it might not be as noticeable though, because of the fact that depending on how high he was actually up in that building.
I think he was probably pretty high.
Yeah.
But even still, I mean, I don't know. Also, at the restaurant when he was in the bathroom, when he was talking, and then he walks out, and then the dad comes out, and you're like, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe that you just missed him!" And then again on the street corner, because remember they stole the taxi.
Right. They wind up stealing the taxi from somebody else. They also stole somebody's reservation. But my favorite line that Ferris says, he goes, I'm gonna be damned if I'm gonna let this guy talking about the reservation, the person who was doing the reservations and everything, if I'm gonna get busted by this guy. I'm not gonna go down like that. If I'm gonna go down, I want to get caught by someone that's better than this guy.
Right? I have to look. I actually wrote my favorite line down, and it was, I wrote it down. Let me see. It's a little childish and stupid, but then again, so is high school.
And that's actually true, though.
Yeah, I mean, and then he says, isms, in my opinion, are not good.
But you know what, though? That's actually true, though, because high schoolers are really childish and stupid. It's filled with nonsense and everything. And Ferris, to me, is kind of more wiser than most of his own seniors.
Yeah.
And I also feel like, in a sense, he also feels inspired.
Yeah.
At the same time, and bored.
I think I feel like this whole movie is like a wink. Like Ferris winking at everybody, and he's kind of in on the joke. So what you're saying, but he's very clever.
Yeah, he's definitely very clever when it comes down to it.
Yeah.
And another thing before we get into some more stuff, that song by The Cure, "Friday I'm in Love," that came out in 1992 on the album Wish.
Wish, yes.
So. Yeah, I believe if that song would have made it on, or another song would have made it onto the Ferris Bueller's soundtrack, and The Cure was there, they would have actually got famous after this.
Yeah, and I don't know if and I can't remember if they said if it was an existing song or if he wrote one for the movie, but I thought they said that it was a new song that they did for the movie. But either way, I think it's interesting to know that it didn't make it in.
Right. Another thing, though, too, is this, I like the monologue, though, between his sister and also, too, Charlie Sheen, because why should you care what he's doing or anything? And she goes, well, why does he get to have fun while other people are doing classes and doing everything? And, Charlie is like, well, that's just the way it is. There's going to be people out there in the real world that does that. There's nothing that you can do about it and everything. And it's not fair to her. But then again, we as adults, we see it happen all the time.
Yeah, and I think in the end, she must have listened to his message just because of how it ended with her, actually giving him a pass and letting him in the house. So I don't know if it was because of what Charlie Sheen's character said or because she was really pissed at the stupid principal for breaking into her house. But I think in the end, she had a little bit of enlightenment herself.
Right. I think she decided, you know what? It's not worth getting butthurt over and everything. He's still my brother no matter what. We're blood. Yeah. If he gets caught, he gets caught. If he doesn't, he doesn't. It's not going to be on me. It's going to be on him. And if he gets caught...
I kind of like that. I mean, it was a little pat and everything, but I still kind of like that little exchange happened.
Me too. Because I feel like she needed that, to be honest.
I do. I mean, I feel like she did. I think she's so angry, to kind of forgive him was a good thing, I think, for everybody. Maybe she lightened up a little, but she still kicked some serious ass.
She did. She definitely did. There's actually some other funny moments, though, too. Like, for instance, when Rooney rings the doorbell and Ferris goes, I'm sorry, I can't come to the door right now. I'm very ill and I'm very sick. I don't want to get you sick. So if you can, please leave your name and number at the door and we'll call you when we can. And I'm like, okay, if this was Corona times,
I was thinking the same thing. I'm like, you wouldn't even knock on the door at this point.
Right? It's like, okay, he's sick. Game over.
Well, then when he's trying to get in the house and he like falls off that kind of it's not even a ladder. What is it? It's
the
trellis, like a trellis thing, and then he falls and his foot sinks into the ground, and you're like, yes. I mean, because I spent the whole movie going, yes, get him. And then Jeannie, the sister, did, and it's like, boom, he really got it.
He did. He got what was coming to him that whole entire time. Even the part with the dog biting him, and then also putting his foot in the dog's door as well. And then there's a bunch of stuff that happens to Rooney that he actually deserved. He went through the extra mile. Yes.
Yeah, and then at the very end when he's walking and you see his pants are all shredded at the bottom. But he's like walking down the street before the bus picks him up, and you're like, he could see his pants and his like bloodied lip, and you're like, you kind of deserved all of it, Rooney.
Yeah. And then also too, Cameron, after another thing that's actually funny whenever they go to the parking garage too, he goes, hey, you guys speak English? And they're answering Ferris. He goes, what country do we live in? So he goes, you see, perfectly fine. They're professionals. And then Cameron goes, professional at what? And next thing you know, they go out for a joyride on the jet with that Ferrari.
And they take that car and it goes. Well,
the Star Wars music was perfect.
Oh yeah, and we still do, but you call that the Dukes of Hazzard jump. Whenever a car jumps like that, that's what they did in the TV show, The Dukes of Hazzard. But that's so beautiful when the car just kind of goes whoop and then right back down, and then just keeps on going. Yeah,
it was perfect.
Yeah.
Let's see here. What other favorite moments do you have?
Oh well, I think we should probably talk about Bueller.
Oh yeah, Ben Stein.
Ben Stein. That made him a household name because nobody knew who he was before that movie. I mean, people did know who he was because actually he was a speechwriter for Ford and for I forget, but he was he was known, but probably not by high schoolers. So I think that's probably one of my favorites of all time. But I think it's one of those things where you can go Bueller, and everybody knows the reference.
Exactly, because that's so iconic. Aside from the part where it's the post-credits scene, and he goes, "What are you guys doing here? The movie's over. Go home.
Go home.
Go home. Go." And even on Deadpool, they did the same thing at the very end. But the end credits. Deadpool comes out with his mask and goes, and he has the robe that Matthew Broderick has. He goes, what are you guys doing here? Deadpool's over. The money's over. We don't have that kind of budget here. We're running with a small budget. He goes, look, I'm just going to tell you one thing. We're going to have Deadpool 2. Deadpool 2 is coming out, and guess what? We're going to have Cable in it. And by the way, you guys need to go ahead and go home. Because the ushers are going to get pissed off at you for being here this long. So you need to go home. And then all of a sudden you hear the little Ferris Bueller thing whisper as he's leaving. It's just perfect execution when it comes down to improv with that.
That's awesome. And I think that the movie is so iconic that people do want to pay homage to it and do things like that because there are things about it that everybody has their favorite moments, but that you appreciate it so much that you want to like pay tribute to that. And I think that's what John Hughes really did for a lot of his movies for a lot of people, because he just knew how to write a movie that people felt a connection to in some way. Mm-hmm. Just like look at Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. People have that in their top 10. Everybody I know loves that movie. I can't watch it because it makes me cry so much, but it's such a beautiful movie. And I think Ferris Bueller too. And I think one thing he didn't do in this movie that he did do in 16 Candles was the humor was a little smarter in Ferris Bueller than it is in 16 Candles. It's not as in your face humor. but it's funny and it's real, and everybody knows a Ferris Bueller, and we all know a Genie, and we all hated our principal, and you know what I mean. And I think he's so good at writing characters that are believable in the world that he creates.
And very relatable. I mean, like you said, we all have a principal that we don't like. We all have a teacher that's actually boring and bland.
Yeah.
And everything that just makes us fall asleep in class and zones out of everything. Yeah.
That's another thing I love about that scene when they show the students and they're all like, when he's trying to teach economics, they're all, I think that's brilliant. It's funny because it's true.
Right.
That's why it's funny.
I agree with you. I 110% agree with you on that, because I remember sitting in a couple of history classes where it was just boring. And there was like maybe one teacher that actually made history interesting because he was doing different impressions. He was telling us, okay, class, today feels like a good day to just cheat. So just cheat. And we're looking at each other like, what? Is he serious? And we're all, so we're just going back to him. He goes, what are you doing? I told you to cheat. Oh, you were serious. but we all have a teacher that is very boring and very bland.
Yeah.
That's one thing I appreciate about John Hughes, though. He knows how to get you glued into a setting to where we can care about the characters, not only care about the characters, but care about the environment that he's creating around these characters. And everybody has trips that they go on and everything on Thanksgiving. Plane, Trains, and Automobiles is very relatable. It's not in your face. It's more of the fact that it's two grown people trying to get home for the holidays to spend time with their families. This one, you're dealing with a kid that's bored with school, bored with life, bored with everything, because he doesn't feel like he doesn't feel passion with whatever that the school is teaching him, because he's bored with it. He's been 12 years in school.
Yeah, that was actually the heart of what that movie is. What you just said, I completely agree with it. You're right. I mean, I think we all sort of felt that kind of angst because he was a senior and they're all graduating soon, and it's like, why bother going to school? And it's been kind of blah, like haven't learned anything anyway. I really want to just go do something fun, and he did. He did what we all wanted to do, right? We all wanted to go and leave school for the day and go do some really fun stuff, and he really did. And that's
he really did. Right.
Yeah. I mean, you could argue, manipulative bully, whatever, but I think that his intentions were true.
I think so too.
And I think that he really loves Cameron. I do. I think that they have a really nice friendship, and I think that Cameron had a good time, and he did make some hilarious phone calls along the way, you know.
And also too, there's a transformation with Cameron though throughout the film, where he's thinking about life. He's thinking about what's life after high school and where he's going to be at. And all of us do that and everything in high school. We're like, well, where are we going to be at in 10 years? Where do you see ourselves? And then of course, Ferris goes, you know what? Cameron's going to be the first person that winds up marrying the first person he winds up sleeping with.
Yeah.
And it'll be just like his mother or his father or something like that.
Yeah.
But then also too, they're all wondering where Ferris is going to be. They're wondering about their future. Ferris is worried about after high school, Simone is going to be still in high school. He's going to be done.
Yeah.
And he's wondering where she's going to end up at. Are they still going to be together or not? It's that teenage worryiness of what's going to happen.
Yeah.
And there's that anxiety level of what they're afraid of. But with Cameron, though, you go from a kid that was scared of his father and scared of doing things and risking things. And Ferris is actually telling him, hey, look, you need to just relax. Have yourself some fun. We're going to have fun today. Regardless of the fact if you think you're going to have fun or not. We're going to have fun. And that's exactly what happens.
Yeah. And he doesn't want to have fun. He just ends up having fun.
Right.
I mean, Ferris has fun, but Cameron doesn't want to. But I mean, it's interesting, though, like he talks about his father in an obviously very not flattering way. And then he has this moment where he looks up and he's like, or he looks down when they're standing at the, I don't know, is that the Sears Tower or the John Hancock building that they're standing on those things and looking down?
Right. To be honest with you, I don't know. They never really specified.
Yeah, they don't really say. It's probably one of those two, because you can, at least back then, you could get into both, and they both had areas where you could view. But he looks down and he says, "I think I see my father," and then you see the shot, and it's just buildings. You can't see him, and I think that's sort of like telling about where he kind of is in that moment, where he's still thinking about his dad and the impact his family has on him. But then by the end of the day, I think he lets some of that go, which I think is important, because I don't think he needed to. I don't really care about growth or not, but I don't think Ferris had a lot of growth, personal growth. And I don't.
What you see is what you got from him.
Yeah, and I think that's fine, because people talk about movie reviews and they're like, well, there wasn't any growth. Well, I mean, it's a comedy. Did he need it? No. He went home the same person he was when he left, but he was a pretty kick-ass guy when he left the house. So is that okay that he didn't grow? Yeah, he'll grow up when he gets older.
Right. And I figured with Ferris, though, we pretty much know who his character is. We know that his character wasn't going to be growing or anything like that. We knew that from the very beginning. But it's not about growing, though. It's about helping your friends face their anxieties, in a sense.
Yeah.
And helping them along the way. And even though it was tough love, it was still love, no matter what. If that makes sense, especially with Cameron, and then Simone, though, too, even though she was just basically a tag along for the ride and everything, because basically she was just going along with Ferris with everything he was doing. So there was not really any growth with her that much. But there wasn't much of a character to work with, I didn't think, with her. Her role was pretty small. Even though she was in it a lot, I didn't think she didn't play that big of a role. No. But with Cameron, though, there's a lot of mental abuse that goes on with him and his father.
Yeah.
Anxiety and depression. Being a hypochondriac, though, too, because he doesn't want to get out of bed because he's actually miserable.
Yeah.
And Ferris is actually forcing him to do something he doesn't want to do, but he knows that it's good for him, even though Cameron doesn't see it in that light yet. No. But then once the Ferrari goes through the window, like Brandy was saying earlier, right?
And then when they show it on the ground, I remember the first time I saw it, I was like, because it's getting to the end of the movie. The day's, it's getting to the end of the day, and you're like, how is this going to get fixed? Like, how is this going to resolve itself? It's pretty devastating to see that car sitting there at the bottom of the canyon or whatever cliff or whatever it is. It's like, ugh. And by the way, I did in my research find out that house that Cameron lives in was actually a house that the outside that they took us in California, not Chicago. And that's one of the few.
Feeling.
Yeah, because it doesn't look like Chicago in any way.
No, because if you look at how it's shot, it looks like there's some palm trees. It looks very Californian-esque, to be honest with you.
Even the architecture of the building itself looks like
California.
Like a 60s, 70s California built home. That's why I kind of looked it up, because I was always wondering about that. But that's one of the few times that he set a film in Chicago and didn't actually have exteriors from Chicago.
Right.
He was pretty careful to do that. But I think they did that because of how they filmed that scene. But really in Chicago, unless the only bluffs that I can even think of where you'd be high enough in a hill would be on Lake Michigan, and they weren't on the lake. You would see that for sure.
Right. And I'm like, as the car was going backwards and then that house and everything, I was like, no, even the driveway doesn't even look like a Chicago driveway.
No, it doesn't.
Or anything like that. It looks more like a California driveway. It has that California look to it. So I'm glad that you looked into that, because I'm like, something's off about this shot.
Yeah, I didn't think anything about it until I watched it the other day, and I was like, that doesn't look like... I mean, obviously there are probably places in Chicago where there's cliffs and stuff like that, but not particularly. We don't have a lot of hills and canyons and things like that. I mean, we have a kettle moraine where I am, so there are some hills and valleys, but not in Chicago, not particularly. It's pretty flat.
Definitely. So let's go into some of the trivia though that you found.
Oh yeah.
And by the way, guys, you can actually find this trivia stuff on IMDb and stuff like that. But we just found some stuff. Well, Beth found some stuff that she found fascinating. But according to IMDb,
I find all John Hughes fascinating. I don't know if I've mentioned this, but I love John Hughes movies.
No, I don't think so. I don't think you mentioned it at all.
Have I ever mentioned that, John?
I might have to roll tape from last time you were here. But Brandy also says that The Breakfast Club was also a relatable film by him. And yes, that was actually very relatable during that time with the different things that Emilio Estevez was going through, which kind of, in a sense, kind of reminds me of Cameron just a little bit, even though he's not the jock or anything like that, but still kind of similar in some aspects.
Yeah, I agree.
But according to IMDb, Broderick was nominated for a Golden Globe but did not win. But the one thing that I find that's very fascinating is Ben Stein, when he has his lecture, it's scripted except the roll call. Hughes just asked him to give a lecture on economics, and he was an economics professor. Stein was also a speechwriter, like you said, for both Ford and Nixon.
Nixon, that's right, Nixon.
Which I find interesting that Ben goes from doing that to doing acting.
Yeah. Well, and then he had that TV show called, game show, Win Ben Stein's Money.
Right, with Jimmy Kimmel at that time.
Yeah, so it was a long time ago, but I remember it.
Me too. I remember Ben Stein's Money on Comedy Central. I used to watch that all the time, to be honest with you.
Me too. It was funny.
It was definitely a funny show. The categories that they would actually choose was funny. You'll probably find some clips on YouTube if people are wondering what When Ben Stein Money is. Go in and check that on YouTube. I'm sure that they have some stuff over there. But the one thing that sticks out to me was the Ferrari that you were mentioning. It was too expensive to rent one, so the 3 replicas were crafted from an MG, chassis?
Chassis.
Yeah, chassis.
So they basically built a Ferrari around an MG.
That's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, it actually is. It makes a lot of sense to do that because, I mean, they would have had to destroy one anyway, so they might as well build it, right?
Exactly. And also, too, I want to mention this. In Money Heist, they actually have the Ferrari in Money Heist. Or Tower Heist. Tower Heist is the name of the movie.
Okay.
And they actually had the Ferrari from Ferris Bueller, I want to say. And Matthew Broderick was actually in that movie with Eddie Murphy. Yeah. So, if you're wondering... It's been a
long time since if I've even seen it. I feel like I have, though.
Yeah, Ben Stiller's in it. You also have the female that played on Precious. She's in that movie.
Oh, yeah.
But... You know, another thing that's actually pretty cool is this. They actually have this one movie, I think it's called Summer Break or Outbreak or something like that. But it's on Netflix. It's an original series. But it has that Ferris Bueller kind of vibe to it, but set in a zombie apocalypse kind of time period. But the adults are actually the zombies, and the kids are actually the people who are trying to find out how they can actually turn their adults back into normal human beings.
That's awesome.
And so Matthew Broderick is actually the principal.
Oh,
and you have this adolescence that's kind of like Ferris Bueller. And he's, you know what? This is before I found out that Matthew Broderick was even the principal in this TV show. It's called Daybreak, by the way.
Okay.
But the kid is talking in breaking the fourth wall. I'm thinking this has Ferris Bueller vibes to me. Next thing you know, Matthew Broderick comes out as the principal. I'm like, well, that was his perfect timing. But it really is. The show is great. I recommend anybody who's into stuff like that, check that out if you want a little bit of a modern day kind of twist on Ferris Bueller a little bit. I recommend that TV series. I've watched it during quarantine. But yeah, it was very good. Then let's take a look and see what else we have.
Oh, there was actually a TV show that was based off of Ferris Bueller's Day Off called Parker Lewis Can't Lose. And it had Corey Nemec in it. He starred in it. I don't even know how many episodes they made before it got canceled. Maybe 10, I don't even know. And I think Jennifer Aniston played the sister in that movie. I think she played the Jeannie version. And I don't know why they called it Parker Lewis Can't Lose instead of Ferris Bueller. There probably was some kind of licensing issue. But it was a terrible TV show. But I watched it because I liked Corey Nemec at the time.
Okay, I never heard of that one, to be honest.
Like I said, I'm pretty sure it was very quickly canceled. I don't think it made it even a full season, and I'm going to say it was probably in the very late 80s. I don't even think it was probably like at 88 or 89.
Okay. This is also another little trivia thing that you found. Matthew Broderick and Jennifer Grey began dating and later became engaged, though they never married. Yeah. The actor who played Mr. and Mrs. Bueller did get married, but divorced. I guess that was because their son was sneaking away, and they just discovered the fact that they've been lying to him.
They're just interesting without him.
Right.
Oh, I like this one. Alan Ruck was 30 when he played Cameron.
That does not surprise me because most of the time they don't cast teenagers. They cast people that are like 30 years old and have like a baby kind of face.
Yeah, and I want to say Matthew Broderick was probably, his character was probably 18, so he was definitely 18 or older when he filmed. Jennifer Grey probably was too, even though she played like a 16-year-old. I'm sure she was probably at least 18.
Right. But yeah, this movie is perfectly well casted, and of course, the chemistry between all the characters were really great. It has that 80s kind of vibe. If anybody wants to watch it, you can actually stream it right now on Netflix. So therefore, you don't have to worry about renting it or anything like that on YouTube or anything like that. You guys will be able to watch that in the comfort of your own home with watching it on Netflix.
I saw it in the movie theater when it came out, and it was so good in fact, our local theater did a retrospective, and they did start showing, like, I saw Breakfast Club, and I was supposed to see 16 Candles and Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and then COVID hit. So they never had them. I actually had tickets, and then they closed, which was really disappointing because I really wanted to see, because seeing Breakfast Club in the movie theater again it's the emotions that it brings up are just so raw, and you can feel it. It was so awesome.
I need to see that in theaters, to be honest with you. But doing a triple theater experience, or I guess a triple feature presentation of nothing but John Hughes movies, sign me up. I would go and do that in a heartbeat, to be honest with you.
Yeah, I loved seeing Breakfast Club in the theater again, and I really wanted to see Ferris Bueller and 16 Candles, but alas, COVID struck and it did not happen. Maybe in 5 years when they do, because I think the 20th, maybe the 20th. I don't remember why they were doing it. Maybe it was just a John Hughes retrospective, but it was great to see Breakfast Club.
Okay. So any other final thoughts about Ferris Bueller's Day Off or anything like that, or?
No, just that I really, really loved seeing it again, and I'm glad we talked. And I'm also sorry, everybody, that my dog was barking.
No, don't worry about that.
My little troublemaking dog. Hey. I can hear him out in the hallway now. He's out there waiting for me to give me kisses and say sorry.
Oh, but no, it's perfectly fine. Like I said, life happens. Fur babies need loving too, so it's perfectly fine. It's perfectly fine that your dog was barking and everything. I have no issues with that.
When we get now, we wouldn't have heard him at all except for right before we started recording. My microphone died for some reason. So when we get together to do Pretty in Pink, I'm going to have that fixed by then, so we won't hear him at all.
It's perfectly fine. But anyways, Beth, I just want to say thank you so much for doing this review.
It's so fun.
I can't wait. It really is. It's always a blast having you on. This is your second time being on here. Yeah. And also, too, I can't wait to do our Pretty in Pink episode with me, you, and Brandy.
Yeah,
doing this. It's going to be fun. Yes, it is. And you know what? Speaking of fun, where can everybody follow you and listen to your podcast?
So we're the Made for TV Movie Club podcast. We review TV movies from the 70s, 80s, and 90s. And we are a comedy podcast. We drop some F-bombs. It's a lot of fun. We have a great time. So we're on Twitter at, I'm looking at my thing so I don't mess it up, at TV Movie Club Pod 1. We're on Instagram at made_for_TV_movie_club. And on Facebook, we're on Made for TV Movie Club Podcast. We have a website. You can go to madefortvmovieclub.com and find all of our links there. We are on Stitcher, Apple, Spotify, Amazon Music, Anchor, but you can hashtag us at hashtag MFTVMC Podcast, and you'll find us at all those places.
Okay. And guys, if you guys want to, we are actually doing another charity. And this time we're doing it for the victims of Louisiana through the Red Cross. I'll have the link up probably after this podcast and everything too, where you guys can donate to the Red Cross and everything, because I feel like that in my heart, it was being led to donate for people to buy some Scentsies and to actually help a cause in Louisiana and everything for victims who lost their homes, may not have power right now, and is able just to help the people and victims of Louisiana. So go ahead, donate $5 to $10, get yourself a Scentsy. You won't regret it. Me and Two Blur Girls podcast teamed up to do this yet again. It's always fun being able to do these charities. Also, to go ahead and follow us on Facebook at Movie Lovers TV Loves Unite, and on Instagram underneath the same brand name, and of course on Pinterest as well. We're also on TikTok as well now at Movie Lovers Unite 0. So you guys can go on ahead, watch me act like a fool, doing all kinds of different all kinds of different promotions and stuff like that for the show, for the podcast as well. And then, of course, you guys can go on ahead and get an audio-only podcast of our episodes and many more of what we do here at Movie Lovers Unite, where you guys get your podcast from. But here's the thing, guys. I want you guys to go down to Good Pods right now. And what Good Pods is a great place, a great community for podcasters. If you listen to podcasts, or if you're a podcaster yourself, you get to go on ahead, rate each episode of different podcasts, and tell us what you like. Tell us what you didn't like. Give us a 5-star review. Even if you didn't, if you think it's total crap, just give us a 3-star. I'll take a 3. If not, I'll take a 4. But either way it goes, tell us what you think, and that would be great. Also, too, if you want to donate to our show, all you have to do is go to gofundme.com/Movie Lovers Podcast and donate $5 to $10 over there if you guys can. If you guys can't, simple like and a simple share goes a long way here. And of course, subscribe to our channel, smash that subscribe button, smash that like button, smash that bell on the bottom right hand corner to let everybody know that you have notifications coming. Then of course, tomorrow we actually have our trailer reaction for the new Matrix movie that just dropped today for that trailer. So if you're curious as to what we think about this new Matrix movie, go on ahead. Tomorrow around 9 o'clock Central Time, I'm going to be dropping the trailer reaction that we just shot today. So go ahead and check that out. And then tomorrow I'm also doing a non-spoiler review for I can't even say the word for the new James Wan horror movie, Magnificent, or whatever that movie is. It starts with an M. But anyways, I'm doing a non-spoiler review for that. And then Sunday I'm doing a spoiler review with independent director Jason Pitts for that. So, of course, if you guys want to, go and follow me on Twitter at Movie Lovers Unit. And, of course, if you're a sponsor or would like to get in touch with us, just email me at movielovesunite@gmail.com. And that's everywhere you can follow me at, guys. It's been real. It's been fun. I can't wait to do this again. And bye-bye. And thank you again, Beth.
Bye, guys.